Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Live with Laureen, number 16.
Woo!
Put in the chat, like it, share it right now while we're getting started. Just going to get warmed up here.
I'm still a teenager.
How's all the weather in everybody's countries, in their parts of the world?
It's kind of rainy and chilly here.
It's chilly and sunny here.
We're trying to get our little simulcasting going, giving people... Oops, I better turn off my...
That was me. Sorry. Let's see.
There we go. All right, I see her live with Laureen on Facebook. Hello, Facebook friends. And we have Lori out there helping us field the questions. Hello, Lori. And we have Boyd helping us with the video emceeing.
Hello.
And we're also simulcasting, I think, to YouTube, right?
Yep, I've got that one open too.
All right.
Just signed in there. That's why it looks like I'm staring over here. It's that other monitor. It's like I gotta make sure.
I can't always seem to find our stuff on. I'm not seeing the YouTube one. It's medical coding cert, right, Boyd?
Yep. Do you mean to send you a link, Laureen?
Oh, there it is. I got it.
Okay.
Just a little delay. Okay. So, today I have with me on live with Laureen Jandroep Stevenson. She hasn't been on with me in a while, though she's been very prolific on her own, doing her Did You Knows and working on updating our course content. So we've been literally keeping her behind locked doors. So this was nice to get out and work together again. So it seems like we had a bunch of questions come in with a bit of a billing theme. So we're going to answer 3 questions related to that. CRC course question came in again, and we did have a question on HCPCS manuals, but it's a bit of a mystery, so we'll leave it up there and see if anyone in the Facebook...
Oh, I have the answer to that one.
Oh, good. Okay, then we'll keep it up. Great. So, let's see. Do you want to start with that one then?
We can.
All right, let's start with that. That was a question that came in, I think, in our CCO club about these HCPCS new indexes and indices, and I just got my HCPCS, and my version is AMA, and I only had one appendix, so I'm very curious as to the answer.
So from what I can tell, the question that actually came in asked specifically about 3 different appendices at the end of the HCPCS manual. They asked about Appendix C as in Charlie, G as in girl, and H as in Howard. And I believe they were looking at the AAPC's version, and these actually aren't new. They were there last year in 2016. But if you get the AAPC version of the HCPCS books, there's a ton of appendices at the very end of it. I mean, I think they go from, I don't have the 2017, but I did talk to one of the editors over at AAPC. I called her and said, "Do you have this book?" And she assured me that nothing had changed. She read the list of appendices to me as far as what the appendices were had not changed. The content may have changed based on any edits. But they actually go from Appendix A all the way through Appendix N, as in Nancy. There are so many in there. And the 3 that this person specifically asked about in the question were C, G, and H. And C are the ambulance modifiers.
Oh, okay.
Where this is a modifier that you have to make, right? They give you a 1-character description. So, for example, the first one says D, as in David, and next to it says diagnostic or therapeutic site other than P or H when these are used as the origin code. So in building an ambulance modifier, they're actually not going to give you all the possible modifiers here. They're going to give you all of the components to build your own. So your first character in that 2-digit or 2-character modifier, your first letter should represent where did the ambulance pick the patient up at? Where did they start? What was the point of origin? And then the second letter indicates where they dropped the patient off at, like what the place of service was where it ended. So you combine them together to build that ambulance modifier. And that's what I've seen a lot of people try to struggle with. But if you're not billing, unless you're billing for ambulance services, it's not something you're typically going to use day in and day out. The other two, let's see, Appendix G.
But other publishers don't put that in an appendix. That's in right next to the codes, right?
The other publishers, I don't know what the other publishers do. I mean, what does are the ambulance modifiers in your modifiers list in the AMA version?
That's what I'm checking here.
Out of curiosity. And if anybody's got a different version, maybe you have an Elsevier version, you have a PMIC, something like that, take a look and let us know. Where is this additional information in your version? Is it in the appendix? Is it listed just with the modifiers on either, the inside cover sometimes of the book? Is it listed somewhere else?
AMA version has a introduction that has the level 2 modifiers listed.
Okay.
And then the ambulance modifiers are just listed on just before
Okay.
the ambulance codes in a little. Let me see if you guys can see this. Where am I? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the difference between that, yours just takes up a portion of the page like that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the AAPC version, right? It takes up the whole page width, but about the top half of the page.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just another reiteration of why you need to be familiar with your version of the book.
Right.
See what all's there. So Appendix G, as in girl, are the type of service codes. And these really have more to do with billing than anything. And with the type of service, it's a 1-character code. Quite frankly, without doing a little research, I can't tell you exactly where it goes on the claim form, but I know that's what they're used for, predominantly on the UB04, more so than the CMS 1500. But it's a 1-digit code telling you what type of service was performed. Was it a whole blood product? Was it a consultation? Was it diagnostic radiology? Those sorts of things. So it's a little listing, and I'm sure it's also in other places and other publishers, so that you've got that information as a go-to. Then appendix.
That's the difference between like CPT. They don't really allow you to do too much different to CPT as like standard or professional, but with ICD and HCPCS, it's kind of in the public domain, and publishers can really have their way with it and do different things.
Absolutely, and that's why there's so many different versions of ICD, because ICD really lives in the public domain. So anybody can publish their own version of the book, whereas CPT is not, right? It's proprietarily owned by the American Medical Association. So we can't do as much with that without special licensing, and even then, when you start looking at the books that they've special licensed, like the Current Procedural Coding Professional and those types of things, they're missing, and I do say missing, many of the guidelines, many of the subsection guidelines that give you direction on how to use certain codes, because AMA does not include that in their licensing fee. And a lot of people don't realize what that difference is.
Right.
The last appendix they asked about was Appendix H, and it's just a listing of the medically unlikely edits, the MUEs. And you can pull up the MUE list on the CMS website. It's simply telling you kind of how many units you can bill on a given CPT code. It's kind of one of those where you can't bill for multiple cholecystectomies on the same patient, right? They're only going to have one gallbladder unless there's some anatomical aberration. It's those types of things that it would be very highly unusual or not possible for certain things to occur. That's really what that's about.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you for that last-minute research call, and boom, got it all figured out.
No problem.
All right. Let's see, is anyone saying anything about it in the chats?
Not about that. We've got a couple other questions coming in, though.
All right, so we'll hold on them. Nothing that's... Okay. So let's talk about the CPB. That's the Certified Professional Biller credential. That is from the AAPC. And the first person was asking about exam strategies and test-taking tips. So Chandra, surprise, surprise, does hold that credential. So normally what we like to do is go out to the AAPC site and look at the competencies that they list and, you know, basically discuss how to prepare for that. So we're going to come here and go to CPB. And this is really true for any credential that you're trying to figure out. I'm getting a lot of questions on the CDEO that Chandra and I just passed for the Certified Documentation Expert for Outpatient. I got it this time. And because there's no study guides, there's no material for it yet. And so we said, well, this is what we do. We come here and you go and you look down and you see what they tell you. They call it exam breakdown. I call them competencies. But basically, you know, you get a feel for how many questions. This one's unusual in that it's 200 questions. Normally, their exams are 150, but it is 5 hours and 40 minutes. You do get a free retake. They just up their prices. It is open book. And if you need to know which books are allowed, approved manuals, again, this is true for any of the credentials you're going for with the AAPC. And then they've got these little like bricks that you have to expand. These are the general categories that you're going to be tested on. You need to understand the different types of insurance, understand billing regulations, Hipaa and compliance, reimbursement and collections, billing, coding, and case analysis. That's why for our students that want to do both billing and coding, we normally tell them to start with coding because coding is a part of billing and a part of billing curriculums and the billing credential. It's not the whole thing, it's a small piece of it, so that's this piece here. So anyway, going from the top to the bottom, under types of insurance, there's 44 questions out of the 200 on the types of insurance. So you need to know the difference between managed care and, say, Medicare, and then the Blues, and the TRICARES, and workers' comp, third-party payers. And they are different. Maybe one day soon we might have a one-payer system, who knows? But for right now, we have a multi-payer system, and what you're going to be asked on this particular certification exam are the differences between them, 40 to the tune of 44 questions worth. Anything on types of insurance you wanted to share, Chandra? Or?
No, I have more kind of general overall comments on the certification exam.
You want to do that first before we go into the details?
No, I'll let you keep going, and then whatever works. I mean.
Okay, then I'll let you bring it home. All right, so then for billing regulations, there's 25 questions related to accountable care organizations. The CCI edits, you need to be aware of how they work. LCDs and NCDs, Incident to billing, global packages, unbundling, completion of the 1500 and the UB, Chandra just mentioned those two, payer payment policies. Now courses package this all up for you. If you're on a true shoestring budget, if you Google each of those terms, especially, or use my little trick that I taught before with site : and go to the CMS site especially, you'll probably find 90% of this information there that you can self-teach yourself. Of course, it's better to do it with a course where you have exercises and you can tap into an instructor if something isn't clear, but it is all out there. Next are just 10 questions on Hipaa and compliance. But these are a lot of information here, but it's just a small number of questions. For reimbursement and collections, you have 28 questions. So they're going to talk about the RBRVS system, payer and patient refunds, credentialing, accounts receivable, fair debt, patient statements, patient dismissal, professional courtesy. These are all topics that affect the billing departments in physician practices. Collection agencies, bankruptcy payment plans, pre-auths, claim editing tools, remittance advice. Those are all things you need to understand as a biller. The billing itself, there's 28 questions. The appeals process, denials, lots of webinars on that. Claims tracking, timely filing, what are the laws related to that? Demos, you'll hear that, demographics, super bill and encounter forms, big time of the year right now, all the new codes, you want to make sure those forms are up to date. What is the retention of records policy that you have to be aware of? Balance billing, telephone courtesy, electronic claim submission, clean claims, audit the billing process. Coding, there's 15 questions. That's a broad category. So it could really be just about anything. So out of 200 questions, 15, you need to know it enough, but don't make sure you feel like you need to be an expert in radiology, an expert in pathology. You just need to understand the basic guidelines and how to do the coding.
And that's only 7.5% of the entire exam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to get a 70 or more to pass. Like, not that the coding's not important, but yeah,
Right.
you know.
And we like to, with the courses, balance it out based on the number of competencies that are going to show up on the exam and prepare you accordingly. And then, of course, the biggie is 50 questions related to cases. So it might be one case that has 10 questions, you know, but at any rate, so I will let Chandra give us her 2 cents as the one who actually took the exam.
So I took the exam, and the first thing I should say before I preface this, and what I tell everybody is, I'm not a biller. Like, I haven't been a biller for several years.
She just plays one on the internet.
I just play one on TV. No, it was funny. When I took the exam, it was actually because I got a phone call from someone related to AAPC that needed somebody to teach the class. And it was not too long after the credential came out, and they didn't have anybody available that had the certification and experience to teach it. So they asked me if I'd be willing to take the certification exam. And I thought, I'm not a biller. That was my response. They said, no, but you can teach it. You understand it. You've done it before. Can you take it? And I said, okay. So I hadn't, at the time I took it, I hadn't actively done billing day to day, day in and day out for 7 years. I was an auditor. I was, I worked on the compliance side of things. Yes, I understood revenue cycle and how everything worked. But the thing I think that frustrated me most were there are certain things, I mean, when you read through all of the competencies, there are a number of things that they expect you to know off the top of your head that, quite frankly, I don't need to know, in my opinion, day to day, because I can go look it up on the internet. I can go find the information, but they really expect you to know it for the certification exam. Things like timely filing limits, things like, all of those different dates and all of those different regulations. So it does wind up being a fairly difficult exam in that there's a lot of information on there you're expected to know that is not included in your coding books, right? It's the things that you really learn hands-on, on the job, doing billing day in and day out. And had I been doing billing, I probably would have known more of that information just off the top of my head than I do not doing it day in and day out. Day in and day out, you use a lot more of it. And now I kind of go, oh, well, last time I looked, I think it was this many days, but I have to go look and see what the updated policies are. So that would be my caution is, if you're thinking about winging it, you're thinking about taking it, you might want to at least do a review class, do something, or review all of the competencies and make sure that you really have a good understanding of everything that's included for that particular exam.
And we are working on a CPB Blitz. Joanne Sheehan, you've probably seen her on some of our Q&A webinars. She's ran a successful billing company for years, which her daughters took over. I think she still is very involved in it, though. It's very hard to leave your baby once you create it. But so she's working on writing that up for us and getting the recordings done for that. So that should be very good, no doubt, to help you prepare for that exam.
We've got a couple comments that kind of dovetail into this. The first one was someone asked, does CCO have a course on this? Yes. We offer a full billing course separate from our coding course, and I'm sure Laureen's going to pull that up for me. And that's another course that we also license through the AAPC, so you get both our material and their material, which is a great bonus. You know, you get double what you would have gotten just through their program.
Twofer.
It's a twofer. And it's got different, I mean, our course is very much built around including all of these different competencies
Yes.
that are tested on the exam. And in addition to that full course, I know Joanne's working on the CPB Blitz, but we also have a free practice CPB exam.
Yes.
So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you go out and check that out.
By the way, all of our freebies are at cco.us. And right here with a little heart, freebies. You just click on that. And this is to join our newsletter. This is to get on our next free Q&A webinar. And here's all our free practice exams. We used to only have one. Now we've got CPC, ICD-10, COC, CPB, and the most recent addition, the CRC. Our goal at CCO is to have the free exams first. We like to really give back and help people to do these free exams to get a baseline to see, do I need a full course or can I get away with just a review blitz? That kind of really helps. And then the next step is we work on developing the paid exams. And just to give you guys an idea, each of these exams, when you take the number of man, or I should say woman hours, to create them at an average hourly rate, not exorbitant, the cost ends up being between $5,000 to $6,000 to develop these tests. So even though they're free, we're doing it to give back, to also, you know, get you into our funnel and get sending you information, letting you know about our teaching style and our courses and, you know, events like this. But they aren't designed to be shared. It's for one user. So we've done segments on being ethical and all of that. So I just would encourage to, when you do it, or if you do one of the purchase ones especially, just keep it to yourself. Don't share it, even though you want to, you know, a lot of people want to be a hero and help their friends. It really isn't the right thing to do. So we would ask that you would respect that, because we did make a difficult decision and we made them printable because we want it to be like the real exam. And the real exam right now is a paper exam. It's not a computer exam. So you've got your booklet and you've got your Scantron form, so we try and duplicate that for you. So we allow you to print the questions. Unfortunately, as soon as you make it like a PDF, it's very easy to share. So we do make you log in and pop in your answers in the online version, and that's how you get your score and the rationales. So at any rate, that's our free practice exam lineup. Did we cover everything we wanted to here?
I think so. Okay. Yeah, there were just a couple of comments about people saying, I've had students take the CPB. One of them was even an LPN, said it was one of the most difficult exams she's ever taken. Absolutely. I mean, think of the sheer amount of information you're supposed to know. Yeah. Because all billing involves coding, so you've really got to understand the coding. Yes, it's a very small general percentage of the exam, but there's so much more that you have to know from a regulatory and payer perspective beyond just the coding.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's a qualm you just shared. Okay, so let's go to the next question here. How long does it take to get certified as a medical biller? So as you can see, all the competencies that we try and cover in a course, it's similar to our coding course. It takes about 4 to 6 months to get through the content. That's with a student on average doing 8 to 10 hours of homework a week. Our courses last 9 months so that you can have a little cushion there, but even if you run out of time, so to speak, you can easily extend with us for less than $30 a month. So that's the average.
We had a question come in related to that saying, I'm a medical biller, I handle some coding, would I need to get the CPB or would a CPC be sufficient? You want me to answer that one, or do you want me to? So as a biller, quite frankly, You could do either first. However, I don't understand how you can take the CPB exam without really understanding the coding first. I know some people have, and they are a biller, and there is less coding on it. But the coding questions they can ask you still run the gamut. I'm still a big proponent of, and I believe Laureen's the same way, of that CPC being your base credential in most situations. And when it comes to coding and billing, I'm still a big proponent that your CPC is going to show you really know your stuff from a coding perspective. Mm-hmm. Yes, the billing comes in handy and helps you in proving that you know or demonstrating that you know the billing regulations and the differences between payers and all of that sort of thing. But I would tend to encourage you to get your CPC first before you go after that CPB.
I agree wholeheartedly. Okay, next. How do I start a home-based medical billing business? So that one's interesting to me because my background is I started off as an occupational therapist, and I ran a therapy practice for a number of years, and most of our clients were nursing homes. And then Medicare changed the way the whole billing structure was, pulled the rug out from underneath us, so to speak. So we closed that business. But since we had done really good with the billing, we decided to open a billing business. That was going to be our new business. And I'm trying to word this properly, I got suckered. I happened to be at one of these nursing homes, and a fax came over, and it said, you know, start a billing business, and, you know, and I did. I even wired money. I could just kick myself, and they did provide training. I went to a training session, me and my husband, in Philadelphia. There was 3 people there with us, and we're going to give you a list of doctors. We're going to show you everything you need to know. And I was so naive, and and I asked, what don't I need to know coding? And they're like, no, you just enter what the doctor gives you on the super bill. It's their job to tell you what to code. You're billing. I'm like, okay. So they set us up with some, very basic billing software that probably cost them a couple $100. I won't tell you how much they charged us. So off I went to start a billing business now. And I went out and I got my first client, and I was so excited because I got a contract for 10%, and 10% is really good in the billing business field, so I was told. Well, I start and get everything set up with my electronic claims and did everything, and I do my first batch, and in come the results, the EOB, and I get a call from the doctor. $0. So 10% of nothing is nothing. So come to find out, he was using a super bill from a practice that he worked at when he was in training, and it was 5 years old. And there were code numbers on there that weren't correct. And then, come to find out, he was predominantly Medicaid. So the codes weren't correct for his type of practice. At any rate, it was a very difficult lesson. And that's what propelled me into medical coding, was I went out to learn medical coding. Nothing in my area. Drove 2.5 hours to take a boot camp in North Jersey, and yada, yada, yada. Here I am. So don't start it my way. That's just the history. So you definitely want to get familiar with billing, and I would not start with billing on your own. I would try and work for a medical practice at least for a year or two to really understand the ins and outs. So when you break out on your own, so to speak, you've got that that experience behind you. I don't know, would you agree with that, Chandra?
I would agree. I would personally, I would run from owning my own billing company, only because there's so many. I know several people that do it and do it well, but over time they get tired of it real quick, because it can be frustrating. You've got all of those different things to contend with, and you got to make sure you've got your liability lined out correctly and who the responsibility really falls on, and it's a lot of work.
Then once you learn how to do the business, when it's your business, then you have to market, and that's a whole nother animal. So, we're not trying to discourage you. Certainly it's a possibility, but it's it's a lot of work. So you definitely would want to work as an employee somewhere and learn the ropes before you broke out on your own. Some people might work for another billing company and learn the ropes, and then they might have intentions of moving to another area, so they're not competing with that employer that gave them training. They're going to go somewhere else, hang out their own shingle. That would be I would say the appropriate thing to do. I don't think it would be very professional to get your training and then go compete against that person. That wouldn't be very cool, in my opinion. But got to get that training. Now, an organization that I love is AMBA, the American Medical Billing Association. We go to their conferences. In the last couple of years we've gone. We've been a speaker at them. They are wonderful. They are really good for people that do their own billing, and they know their stuff. So if you're going to go this path, connect with them, plug in with them for that type of networking on how to do those things. All right. The next question. We're going to switch gears from the billing and cost of the CRC course. This came in from one of our members, and let me see. I had a little thing here. What did they say? Oh, this was our answer. So at the moment, the current price is $11.57 as a one-time payment, or 3 payments are $4.22 every 30 days. And we can just jump right to here to look at the page. So Chandra came to work for CCO for this very project in developing our risk adjustment course. We actually did a version 2. So maybe, Chandra, you want to talk a little bit about how the course is set up, and then we can talk about the pricing.
So the way the course is set up, when I first took over the course and the way that we had it set up, it was before AAPC had licensed their materials for us, and our course was mainly smaller chunks, right? It covered all the information that you needed, but it was about 15, I want to say 15 small little chunks.
Modules, yeah.
And I kind of revamped it. I went through with the help of a number of subject matter experts and consolidated it and combined the things that were similar. So now we have basically 7 modules included in our course, and it starts at the very beginning with kind of what is risk adjustment, where does it fit in the grand scheme of things, what are the different risk adjustment models, and then it moves into the coding aspect, how the audits work, documentation improvement, quality care, and then brings it all together and shows you how it all fits, you know, how all of these pieces we've talked about merge into one. In addition to that, we do also license the AAPC materials, so you get access to their content in addition to ours. But one of the other things that we really focused on when it came to the coding aspect, and the fact that risk adjustment is quite a bit different than many of the other coding areas, right? It's different than fee-for-service coding in that we're focused predominantly on chronic conditions, and those conditions that are going to increase the risk of a patient needing additional care over the next year. So we put together what we called pearls on different chronic conditions, or different conditions that we're likely to risk adjust. And many of those are based on the list that AAPC gives you on their website when you go look at what's included on the CRC. And we're working right now to continue to add more pearls. And what is a pearl? Well, a pearl includes lots of different information. It's going to give you the definition of that disorder. It's going to give you a list of the differential diagnoses, right? What else could the doctor call it in the documentation? What else might they be trying to rule out? The anatomy and pathophysiology of that particular condition, as well as all of the codes, right? The ICD-10 codes related to that condition in kind of a table format so you can figure out, here are all my options, how do I figure out which ones I need? And some of the AHA coding clinic information is included in there. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for what you're going to need from a risk adjustment perspective on that particular illness or disease. And then we've also got decision trees built in there. We've got all sorts of bonus material in that course. That course is rife with bonus material. It's everywhere. So.
And it includes the blitzes. Did you say that already? The risk adjustment
I did not. It includes the risk adjustment blitz and the ICD-10 blitz.
And the ICD-10 blitz. The ICD-10 blitz alone is just, has tons of information in it. But yeah, so you get a lot. You get a lot, and you get to plug in with us. So Chandra and Alicia are both CRCs, so they're very familiar with the exam. I hope to be one this year. I'm going to work hard at learning everything to take the exam. So here's the bonuses. So you even get the first version of the course, so you can see all those little segments that Chandra was talking about, and these 2 blitzes.
Yep.
So I think I saw a question in Facebook here. Dawn, can't wait to take this next to my list. Yep, you and me both.
There was a question on the CRC. It says, as far as tabs and etc. for the CRC exam, what do you recommend we be familiar with in your own books? Wow. Really, for the CRC exam, you only get 1 book. You don't get multiple books. You get your ICD-10 CM. That's it. I would definitely recommend that you use the BAT technique, right? That or the BAT system that we kind of endorse or compiled, with lots of notes. For ICD-10, it's predominantly lots of notes in the guidelines. Know the guidelines. Know them inside out, upside down, backwards, forwards, every direction that you possibly could. Make notes in the tabular portion of your CPT, or I'm sorry, of your ICD-10 book for those things that may be lacking. When a good example of that would be, and I go to this one over and over again, so if you've heard me say it, I apologize, but this is kind of my go-to to give you an idea of what's in the guidelines that's not supported in the rest of the book. And that would be the fact that if you are trying to code a patient who has diabetes after a pancreatectomy, right? We've removed some or all of their pancreas, and now they've developed diabetes. If you look in the coding book, most of the time we're going to start at diabetes, right? We have diabetes, and we're going to go due to a pancreatectomy. You're going to find a code. You're going to find an E13, which is a diabetes, right? An other specified diabetes code. And when you look there, it's going to say this includes post-procedural or post-pancreatectomy diabetes. Okay. What you're going to miss, and what there's no note or code first note for, anything like that for, is in the guidelines it actually says anytime you're coding for post-pancreatectomy diabetes mellitus, you got to code first an E89.1, post-procedural hypoinsulinemia. Well, if you don't make a note in the tabular section of your book, you're never going to get that question right. You're going to miss it every single time. So make notes like that. Go through, what I tell people to do is read a single guideline, go look up those codes in your book. Like you were going to go look up that condition and figure out, are there notes you need to make in the alphabetic index, or are there notes you need to make in the tabular list? Make those notes. Similarly, question I get a lot of the times is, back when we talk about organ transplants and tissue transplants, there's a note in the tabular index that says this is for autologous or non-autologous tissue. Well, remember, autologous means coming from that patient themselves. Autologous means coming from a different source, not from the patient themselves. The funny thing is, the guidelines, remember, because the code set is a global code set, the guidelines are specific to us. And the guidelines say, no, you cannot use those codes for autologous donations. So we've got to make sure we know what we can code and what we can't code. Those are the types of things you want to really make sure you've gone through. You want to tab your books. I personally don't like to tab a whole lot in the alphabetic index because I find it gets in my way of flipping to the terms I want, but I tab each chapter 1 through 21 in my book so that it's easy for me to go, oh, I want the A and B codes, I want the C and D codes, whatever it may be, to flip through there. That would be my personal opinion. The other thing that you may want to do, and now this takes a lot of time, but I've seen some people do it. There is a list that Medicare provides, and I know it's in our stuff. I just don't know exactly where it is at the moment. I'd have to go look for it. But they give you a full list of about 10,000 codes that risk adjust for Medicare HCCs. And we know that Medicare HCCs are the largest and longest standing risk adjustment group or plan that we see out there. What I did is I went through my ICD-10 manual and I circled those codes or highlighted them in a given color, so I knew from an exam perspective, those are the codes that I want to make sure if they list, if that's what it comes out to in my answers, those are ones that risk adjust I need to pay particular attention to. So that's what I found helpful.
And I'm just showing here, this is our bat cave. This is really where the content lives. And it's our way of trying to get our notes in our book to you. So if you are a full course student of ours, you get access to this. Or if you're a club member, you get access to this. It's also in the CPC Blitz only. So that's our system. Bubble, highlight, annotate technique. So people really, really like their notes. They get very attached to it, and I'll show you an example of CPT while we're in here. But I had, done CPT for my own self in preparing for the exam because I was an occupational therapist. I didn't, do the whole CPT book. So, and I'm a procrastinator. So I had 4 weeks after my boot camp, before I was supposed to take the exam, didn't do anything for 2 weeks. I said, no, I paid all this money, I guess I really should study. So I just thought logically about the exam being open book, multiple choice, and I kind of said to myself, I need to jog my memory of key points, and that's how we came up with the bubbles and the highlights and the notes, and it's pretty much 90% of the notes in there are already in the book. We're just moving it from a different location so it stands out by where the codes live. So here, let me show you musculoskeletal. Where'd that go? Am I still in ICD-10? I think I am. And so you can see here we kind of do an overlay of the CPT book. So this way it keeps the AMA happy. You can see what page number it is, and you can copy our notes, and you can see where we did bubbles and highlights. So it's been a lot of work. But and I have to share a funny story. I have when I told my husband how I wanted to do this, he says, "Oh, I know who you need," and it's a friend of ours, Jody, who's extremely neat handwriting, and she's very type A. So I said, okay, this is a perfect project for her. So I set her up, and it took a lot longer than we thought. So I jumped in and tried to do one respiratory. And the other day I was fielding a call, and someone goes, I don't mean to get the person in trouble, Laureen, but whoever did respiratory, I wouldn't use them anymore. That was
That's
me.
Awesome.
She's like,
That's awesome.
So we will be redoing respiratory when she's done with medicine, which we're 2 sections away, but at any rate, so that's our Bat Cave story.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. Kind of sad, yeah. My handwriting's atrocious, so.
Sorry, that's kind of funny.
All right, so so the cost, let's go back to that. That was really the key question. So on all of our info pages, enrollment pages, the cost is normally toward the bottom, and we have a full pay option, and then we have a payment plan option. So you normally save the most money, obviously, if you can do the full pay. So for, this is the billing one. That's not the one I want.
That's not the one you want.
Here we go. Well, as you can see, it's the same layout. So the risk adjustment's $11.57, and the payment plan is $422 for 3 payments. So
we did have somebody ask if that included the textbook or not for our risk adjustment course. Yes, the text materials for our stuff is included in there. The AAPC information that we license, their textbook is not included, and you would need to purchase that separately.
If you want it, it's optional.
Correct, if you want that. The coding manuals are also not included. That would be a separate purchase.
Oops. And our bookstore, just like a college, when you enroll in a class, you go to the bookstore for your books. We have a virtual bookstore. You just go to store.cco.us, and you can come here and go to whichever course you're interested in. So in this case, it's the risk adjustment course down here. and that will list the books here. So you need your ICD-10-CM manual, and then here's the AAPC's book. We should make a note that this is optional. I'm not sure if we do.
I don't think so.
We'll make a note that that's optional. And we've got lots of different books in here you might want to check out. Just go to the, I think, on the home page and start scrolling down. These are all books that we thought you might be interested in. Now, you know, I will tell you, if we feel you can get it cheaper from Amazon, we're going to give you the direct link to be able to go do that, because, you know, like, I'm a Prime member. I can get pretty good shipping rates. So we don't make a ton of money on the bookstore, a few bucks. We really do it more for the convenience for the students to be able to send them to one place. These are where the books are. But if you come here and click on that link, it'll take you to the books that we vetted. This happens to be a book that Chandra and I used for the CDEO exam. And a lot of people have been asking, what was the reference? Because they do allow you to bring in an extra reference. So I used it when I took it. Did you use it a lot, Chandra, when you took the CDEO?
Twice.
Used it twice.
Yeah.
So you have more stuff in your head. I had to look things up.
I have a random jumble of stuff in my head. It's scary to be in my head most days.
Yes, I can imagine.
The only thing I would point out about this, and I wish we had a way to do this on the bookstore, but I don't think we do, not for exam purposes, but for day-to-day reference, right? In your job, as you're working, as you're studying, this group actually has an app for both the iPhone and the Android that I find invaluable. I absolutely love that app. And instead of, like, this is called Current Medical Diagnosis and Treatment, their app is called Quick Medical Diagnosis and Treatment. So it's QMDT for Quick Medical Diagnosis and Treatment. Mm-hmm. It's a one-time cost, costs you $10. I mean, it wasn't going to break my bank.
That's what you do when you're waiting at the doctor's office, right?
No, actually, when I want to know more about a disease, because the way it's set up is actually really convenient. And it's funny, everybody that knows me is like, do you make a commission on this? I'm like, I wish. I tell everybody about this app. But when you log in, it's literally, let me see if it'll let me show you, it's literally just a list of disorders. And you click on it, and it will tell you, like, I clicked on echolalia, and it gives me the essentials of the diagnosis, general considerations, demographics, clinical findings, differential diagnoses, like how they diagnose us, what procedures they're going to use to diagnose it, how they treat it, what the common tests for it are. All of that's included in this one app. And it's like, okay, it's like information overload, but it's really helpful if there's something, especially in documentation, a disease that I'm not familiar with. It gives me a real quick way to look at it and go, okay, what is this exactly? What are they looking for? What kind of information should I see in the documentation from a testing perspective? From a CDI perspective, it's very, very helpful. Yeah, now, obviously, I wouldn't be able to use it on a certification exam, but it's helpful in day-to-day work.
And the book itself is extremely thick.
Yeah,
so you need strong muscles.
I don't have it laying here. I put it on the bookcase.
Regina asked, do you have a CPC review class? I took the test in December. Yes, we do have review. We call them blitzes. And I came up with the name many, many years ago because the first time I taught it was one of my first classes, and it was a 20-week course, and now they're getting ready for the exam, and everyone's panicking, of course, like, Laureen, I feel like we forgot everything that we did in the first couple of weeks. Could you do a review? I'm like, all right, so we got together on a Saturday, and I just brought my books, and we just started talking, and then I started flipping through the beginning of CPT and said, okay, do you understand about lesions? You understand that you gotta report them individually. Do you understand about the stitches? The repairs that you've got to sum the lengths. And so we started to do it that way, and that's how the whole review thing was born. Just kind of going through all the key points that I felt that they would be tested on. So we called it a blitz because after that day they were so exhausted. I was exhausted, and this was before. God, I'm so old now. This was before you could just put up a PowerPoint and fire it up on a screen. I mean, you had to make handouts and print them and put them on one of those, what is those machines called?
Mimeograph?
No, it would project it, and you'd have the special pens that the
Oh,
teacher
no.
would use.
Like an overhead?
Yeah, an overhead projector. That's what I had to. That's how old I am. I had to use an overhead projector. But at any rate.
It's not that old. Come on.
Well, nowadays,
Well, yeah, nowadays I'm sure your kids are like, "What are you talking about, Mom?"
Yeah, exactly. So at any rate, the Blitz we were so exhausted, and there was nothing to look at. They were just looking at me, and I'm talking to them. There was no audio or no visuals to look at. So we've come a long way, baby. But so we called it the Blitz because we were blitzed. We were exhausted. And it just stuck, It's the Blitz. So, and boot camp to me was something a little bit longer, like a week, where Blitz was 1 or 2 days. We just really wanted to get to the highlights to make everything fresh in your mind for the exam that you're going to be taking in a week or so. So.
Hey, you've got somebody on here who took your class with that overhead projector back then.
Where?
Simona?
On YouTube or
on Facebook. She said, "I took your class with that overhead projector at Shadyside Hospital, LOL."
Oh my goodness. Shadyside, where's that?
I don't know, but that's what it said.
Central Jersey, yeah.
There you go, back in the day.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
I was so nervous the first time I had to do a presentation. That was when I ran my therapy practice, and I had to do a presentation in front of nursing home administrators. And, oh boy. And that was my first time playing with PowerPoint. I'm like, oh, this program's pretty cool. Little did I know it was going to be like the cornerstone of my life. So, at any rate. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about the cost of the CRC course. So we're done with our prepared questions. Did we have any other...
We've got a few. Let me see what we have and haven't answered as we've gone through here. Let's see. I'm going to come back to that one.
Regina has an interview tomorrow.
Awesome.
You know what questions I may face? Oh, that's a crapshoot, to be honest. You might get the typical, what are your strengths? So be prepared for those kind of questions. Some of them do coding tests, but normally they let you know if they're going to do that because you'd need to bring in your manuals.
Yeah.
But mostly be yourself and be confident,
And don't be afraid to say you don't know something if you don't know something.
Right.
Tell them, I don't know that, but given enough time, I'd be happy to research it, and, I know how to research and find the answer. That's huge, that you're willing to go ahead and do that effort.
Yeah. Do we need the Carol Buck version of ICD-10-CM, or is the AAPC ICD-10 version okay with the CRC course? Both are fine. Both are fine. I will say that the AAPC version this year, what we've heard is that the font is a little bit small for us ladies that need glasses. I just got my Elsevier Carol Buck version. I love it. I love the color coding. I just love using that. That's just me. I don't know. What's your favorite, Chandra?
I don't have a favorite.
You don't have a favorite. She's not going to play favorites.
I really don't. I mean, there are pros and cons to every ICD-10 book out there, in my opinion. Yeah. I have the ones that I'm used to. Like, for years, it was back when AMA was the one that did the Carol Buck book. Now Elsevier is the one that does the Carol Buck book. Mm-hmm. But it used to be AMA years ago. And I always used to get that one. And then when I started working as a contractor for AAPC, teaching their content, I had to use their book.
Right.
So I very quickly got comfortable with their book, which for a while, years ago, was a private label of Optum. Now it's not. I mean, the last few years, they've published their own. But like I said, there's pros and cons to all of them. The one thing I will say has made me giggle a little bit this year is people who have ordered either the Optum or the AAPC version of ICD-10, and they are complaining about the lines in the alphabetic index, and they think that they are in error. They think it's a printing error. Right. First of all, I want to say the Optum ones are lighter than the AAPCs are. The AAPC, the first run, they're very dark. I admit those lines are dark, and if you have vision trouble, it can kind of block things for you. It can be hard to see it. If you want to, here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. because everybody like gets it and they're like, why do I have these lines in my book? They're crazy. Here's what it looks like. You see those kind of 3 dark lines in every column?
Mm-hmm.
Those are not a misprint. They're there to help you follow the indents. And I know some people are like, I've been living for years without them. I don't have any problem without them. I don't need them. That's great. And I'm glad that works for you. But go to the external cause index and try to look up certain car accidents without them. And it's nearly impossible. I mean, there was an example that used to be used in some of the curriculum, and it was something like Timmy riding his bike into a light pole. You've got 7 indents to get to that code because you have to go accident, transport, pedal cycle, driver, collision with a stationary object, non-traffic. Well, that many indents, if I don't have a line to kind of help guide me, it's
Right.
really easy to get lost, to wind up in the totally wrong part of the alphabetic or of the external cause index and get the wrong code. So I personally, last year when they weren't in my book, I drew them in because I'm kind of a little OCD there. But I was happy for them. I will say the font is smaller in the AAPC book this year, and they've admittedly it's smaller, which is not helping anything for my eyesight. The other thing is those lines are a bit dark. I'm hoping that they'll lighten them back up next year, that the run just won't be quite as dark.
All right. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My video camera, my webcam's acting wonky, so.
I was going to say, you keep leaving me up here by myself. Okay.
There you go. I was trying to use my document camera to show my shiny new Carol Buck book, but it's not cooperating, so at any rate.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I know. Oh, we started 15 minutes earlier than we normally do. That's why I'm like, wow, we got 15 more minutes. No, we started at 5. Because of YouTube, they like us to start on the hour, so we had to move it to 5 instead of 5:15. So we're going to try this time slot for a while. But do we have any other questions?
We got a question coming in from Kathy and Jasmine wanting to know if we have a course for the CERC through the AAPC.
Not yet.
No. No, we do not. That is one that, quite frankly, currently we don't have anybody with that certification.
That's the
I've
vascular
entertained.
one, right?
That's the interventional.
You don't have that?
Interventional radiology and cardiology. No.
How did I hire you?
The reason I don't have that one is it frustrates me. It's more expensive than all of the other exams.
Oh, really?
It's the only one that the AAPC never puts on sale. And actually, when they have their sales, if you call them and ask them, they'll tell you it's not included. Because I've done it every time they've had a sale on credentials. And I get yelled at every time. I'm like, what? And it's partly because they license it, right? It's something that they license through Z. And the CEUs for it, there's not as many offerings for it from a CEU perspective, and they're pretty expensive. And I just, not that the CEU shouldn't be a problem for me because they cap my CEUs and it would get prorated. I just haven't gone there yet. I haven't gone to invest in it. It is one of the only credentials left that I would be really interested in getting. Mm-hmm. We don't have a prep course for it. There are some materials I could recommend. I have most of the stuff to prepare for it. Definitely be comfortable with all of your catheter selections. I definitely recommend ordering the illustrations that Z Health Publishing puts out. You can order them through AAPC or you can go directly to Z Health for them.
MedLearn also has.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. I don't know who all publishes them, but they're double-sided, laminated, but there's a bunch of them, and you kind of want to bind them, and they're not hole-punched and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love Dr. Z. He's got a quality company. We've had it's just seemed like a couple conferences we were booth neighbors, so I got to chat with him, and I got to you know how when you go to the conferences, a lot of times they give away the books. So I scored the book with all the charts.
Oh, see, Dr. Z and Z Health. Dr. Dunn works with him. That whole group, they're a really stand-up, great organization. Have a lot of respect for them. I just haven't sat for the certification yet exam. And we've got a lot of people in the Facebook chat asking about different specialties, like the orthopedic specialty and things like that. Right now, our focus here at CCO, and Laureen can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're working first and foremost to ensure that we have a course, a blitz, and at least one free practice exam for all of what they call the core certifications that AAPC offers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to go to their page and pull up certifications, right, all those main ones, the CPC, the COC, the billing, the practice management, compliance, all of those, that's where our focus is first.
Yeah.
Because that's where we get the majority of the questions and the majority of the requests.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually we would like to add courses for those specialties. In the meantime,
or at least study guides or
yeah.
a review. Maybe not a full program, a full course, but at least a review and a practice exam, because that's our formula. Our
Yeah.
formula for success is doing some sort of coursework that involves you with doing exercises and practice and getting feedback. Then and marking up your manuals with the BAT system. Then step 2 is doing the review, an overview of all the key concepts based on when you go to the site that they're telling you you're going to be tested on. And then step 3, so critical, but so many people skip this step and then they end up failing, and then they come back and say, I need to do an exam, retake strategy call. Do your timed practice exams and make sure they're timed. Don't do them like it's homework. You need to do it like, okay, I got 60 questions. Treat it like the gem that it is, that $6,000 it costs to create. When you sit down to do it, it's like going to a restaurant and eating a fine meal. You don't want to, you want to use it appropriately and appreciate it. So get your little Scantron sample form of the AAPC so you know what it's going to feel like to fill in the bubbles, and do it like the real thing. And see how you score. Our feeling is once you get to an 85%, you're ready for the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why the buffer? Because you only need a 70 for the real one, because of nerves on exam day. Plus, you're normally doing a shorter exam, a 50 to 60 question, what we call mini mocks, versus 151, or in the case of the billing one, 200. So it's a little bit different on exam day. But if you do those 3 steps, full course with annotating, doing the BAT system to your manuals, then do the review, and then do time practice exams, we feel you're guaranteed to pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the problem is that to get these practice exams written with really good rationales that you learn from the rationales, it's laborious. And then for everyone we create the following year, we have to vet it for the new year. So, it's like buying a car. You have to maintain it. You have to keep, updating it. So, at any rate, that's our system. So we want to get the core credentials first. We also want to make sure our current catalog of courses is up to date and, serving our students well before we just rush out to, create all this content just for the sake of doing it. We would love to. We would probably be much more further along money-wise as a company, but we really want to make sure that we're doing the quality. And we're kind of going through a part in our dust period because we're moving from our platform that we've used for the last 3-4 years to Podio, and that's where our club content is, and it's a little different. So it's that's taking our attention too. But at any rate, I think we covered all of them.
Can I throw in one last thing on the specialty certifications? For people that are looking to take a specialty certification, I have 2 pieces of advice. The first is have some experience in that specialty before you go sit for the certification exam. If you don't have experience in that specialty, definitely make sure you've done your research, done your homework, practiced. Get the AAPC has practice exams for all of those specialty certifications. Use those specialty practice exams. Really make sure you're comfortable with it before you go sit for the certification exam. The second thing is remember that for almost all of those specialty certification exams, you can usually take in an additional reference of your choice. So you get your coding books, then you get one more book. Because when you think about orthopedics, right, there's books that many of us use that work in orthopedics day in and day out, like the Coding Companion or a similar book. I actually use something similar to that, the Comprehensive, orthopedic surgery something. It's through the AAOS. It's a 2-volume manual, and they do let you take both of them in, because one's the upper half of the body and one's the lower half of the body. But make sure that you figure out what the best resource is for the specialty that you're taking, right? Go out there and do, if you're looking for, like people have emailed me, what do I take for the GI? I don't know. I don't do GI. So I went out and Googled gastroenterology coding books and look to see if that specialty society offers something. Most of the time they do. Or if there is an additional book, go search. If you can't find it on our website, on our bookstore, go look at the AAPC's bookstore, because they have a lot of agreements with medical coding specialty societies through the different physician specialties, and they may have a book they recommend.
Right. Very good. And we normally end live with Laureen, just letting you know what's going on at CCO, although I think we've kind of done that throughout the conversation, but just a few links here for you. Join us on the CCO Club, and that's cco.us/club. And if you want to get in on our insider list, that's our newsletter. Just go to cco.us/insider. And I'm sure Lori's sharing the links on our Facebook group. We're going to have to check our YouTubers there. Chapter support. If you are a chapter officer, or if you want to let your chapter officer know, chapter officer of the AAPC, we do free remote presentations. They go wonderfully. We have a stable of topics we do, modifiers, E&M, we do one on risk adjustment, we have the 2017 CPT or ICD-10 updates, so we're happy to do that for you. It helps us to give back, and it also gets our name out there, of course. Door prizes. If you, chapters love to give door prizes. We are not a book company or anything where we can give a physical product, but we certainly can give away free blitzes, free training, CEU classes, that sort of thing. So just go to our website, cco.us, and this is the menu where basically if you want to communicate with us, just go to Contact CCO, and this is where you can do many things. Here's the one for remote presentation request form. Here's the one for door prize. Okay? We talked about that. Facebook Live, if you want to be notified when these live video recordings, we're going to have to change it from Facebook to just live notifications, because we're now simulcasting on YouTube as well. You can go to cco.us/FB Live, or again, it's off this menu, and it's called, where'd it go?
Facebook Live event notification. 6th one down from the top.
There it is. Thank you.
Welcome. There's a lot there.
There's so many I can't even find them. All right, and then we talked about the billing course version 2 that also now includes the AAPC content. The CPMA Blitz is still fairly new. It's only a couple months old. And practice exams, we've recently released the billing one and the risk adjustment one. Coming soon, we are working on CIC course and the CPB Blitz and more CRC practice exams. So let us know what you'd like to see as far as topics that we cover by coming here to topic request, or, oops, where was I going to go here? I was also going to let you know about, let's see, where was it?
Got a visitor in the back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We like visitors.
That's what made me lose my train of thought. All right, topic request. There's something else I was going to share. Another form, topic request. What is it?
It's the 4th one down.
No, I know that's where that one is, but there was something else I wanted to share. Oh, the suggestion box. You knew what I was going to say. So the suggestion box, if you have anything, any course that you really would like to see us do before others, we kind of have our roadmap already outlined for this year, But you never know. If we get enough requests for the same thing, we might push it to the front of the
Well, and not just courses and blitzes, but resources you'd like to see.
right.
Right? Something that maybe others don't ask or offer. I'm sorry, not ask, but.
And before we end here, if you have liked what you've heard today on Facebook and YouTube, please like that video that you're watching right now. That will help us know that we should continue doing these. Thank you very much in advance.
I always feel like at this stage, what's that show where they rate the singers and they say, well, I'm number 3, like, vote for me. So, yes, give us your votes by showing us some link love, as I like to say, on Facebook and whatever channel you're on. We would greatly appreciate it, because that's what spreads the word, and that's how CCO has grown, quite honestly. You know, just word of mouth. So we love social media. All right, and thank you, Boyd, for putting this all together. We couldn't do it without you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
And next
It's always
week,
fun.
Tuesday, we're going to do the support call again. We're going to be simulcasting our support calls pretty regularly for the foreseeable future, unless something causes us to change our mind. And we're going to do Wednesday, Did You Know, with Chandra, and Thursday is Live with Laureen, and we are talking about possibly another one, so stand by for that. All right, everyone, have a good night.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you, Lori.
Hi, everyone.